Okay, time to do some further revisions on my personal narrative essay. So far, I have written my first rough draft, gone back through, and added details, which meant that I have gone through, looked at places where my reader might have questions and tried to answer them. When I did that earlier draft, I highlighted those areas in yellow as I read along so I would know where to go back and do revisions. I only modeled three of those. And if you look back through the essay, there are still some areas I might want to look at again. I might or I might not. But I'm going to go ahead and leave those highlighted in yellow so that before I do my final copy, I can have a look at that one more time. And I know that anything highlighted in yellow, my reader might have some more questions that I want to answer before I call it finished. This time, I'm going to show you another revision strategy. This one is when the teacher says, be more descriptive. What they are actually asking you to do is to add sensory details like smell, sight, taste, touch, smell, all of those, and figurative language, similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbola. I actually think this is one of the easiest things to revise for because my trick is I basically go through and kind of like look for times when I am describing an emotion. And instead of just using that emotion word like sad or happy or embarrassed, I replace that with a simile or a metaphor. And it's also more descriptive, but it also shows instead of telling, which is another strategy that I'll show you in another video. So I'll do what I did last time, which is read through the essay. When I find areas that I think I would like to revise to be more descriptive, I'm going to highlight them. And I'm going to choose a color besides yellow so that even if I don't do all those revisions the first time through, I can always go back before my final copy and evaluate if I want to add more later. So let's go ahead and start. When I was 7, I got a new coat. This was a big deal for me. I had never had a new coat before. I always got hand-me-downs from my older cousins. Both my parents worked hard at their jobs. My dad was a ditch digger for the gas company. My mom was a teacher. Not exactly high-paying professions. My cousins' clothes were nice, but it wasn't the same as getting to go to the store and pick out something brand new that was just for me. I feel like maybe I could add a simile or a metaphor here. So I'm going to highlight this and consider going back here and adding that. And I think this time I'm going to choose green for my color. That year, my dad got a bonus from the union at work, so there was a little extra money. My parents decided that the best use of the money was to get me a nice, very warm coat from the Jones store. This was very exciting. I never got clothing from a department store. Okay, so very exciting. Not exactly the most vivid word choice. Maybe I want to use some figurative language here instead. My parents set 4 ground rules for buying the new coat. Number 1, it had to be bought at least 2 sizes too big so it would fit for multiple years. 2, it had to have a hood because the bus stop was freezing and I usually had to wait outside for a long time. And I feel like this could be like maybe hyperbola. I could like exaggerate this more, make it more vivid. Like instead of just saying a long time or freezing, maybe I could do something with that. Okay, so I may want to look at those areas again. Whatever I picked out within the 2 former criteria, I was never supposed to complain about my selection down the line. The coat could cost no more than $50. Mom took me to the Jones store in September when it was still warm outside. Okay, so still warm outside, like I said, not exactly like the most vivid or descriptive. I think I could play up how warm it was outside so it seems like even like more exaggerated that we'd already be shopping for a coat. She wanted to make sure the selection wasn't picked over, and she wanted to be sure we had time to put it on layaway. Back when I was a child, you could pick out something expensive, then pay it off little by little and eventually get to take it home, and pay it off before the weather got cold. I just noticed that sounds really redundant. So I could say put it on layaway. And I might just say before the weather got cold. I think that sounds a little better. I tried on several coats. There was a bright purple one that Mom liked, but I thought it was itchy. Now, I feel like I could maybe describe a little bit more how itchy it was. Looks like it has possibilities. There was a bright pink one that I liked, but Mom thought it was too flashy. Oh my gosh, I totally know what I want to add here because I actually remember like a simile that she said that was kind of funny. Finally, we found a coat we both liked. It was mauve, pink, and purple mixed together. And they had the coat in a size 14 girls, so it would still fit in a couple of years. It had a hood, and it was $49, just under the $50 limit. Perfect. I feel like I could be more descriptive of the color here. Maybe a simile or metaphor or something like that. We put the coat on layaway and came back every week until it was paid off in mid October. I finally got to take my new coat home and wear it to school. I was so excited. There's another word that's like not exactly leaping out like terrific writing. Everything was amazing. For 3 days, all the girls in my class told me how pretty my new coat was. I was so proud of that coat. I felt like royalty when I wore it. I think I'm going to revise this later, but I'm noting in the back of my mind I want to do something there. Then the unthinkable happened. The zipper broke. I don't mean, oops, it got stuck a little. I mean, it broke. The zipper got stuck. Okay, so I feel like this is one of those areas, gosh, where I could both answer more questions and be more descriptive. I kept pulling, then I panicked. I kept forcing the fob higher and higher until it stuck right in the middle of my chest. I feel like I keep saying stuck and stuck and stuck. And I definitely want to describe this better later. It wouldn't go up, it wouldn't go down. Even my teacher, Ms. Zimmer, couldn't make it budge. I feel like I could describe her trying to like move the zipper. I might look at that area again. She took me to the coat room and told me to put up my arms so she could pull the coat over my head like a sweater. I knew things were bad, but I was sure Mom would be able to fix it once I got home. When I showed Mom that night, she was furious. Now, I could definitely use some figurative language here. She was angry I had been irresponsible and careless with my things. She tried everything she could think of to unstick the zipper. She rubbed it with dry soap to lubricate the track. It didn't work. She tried to use a bent paperclip to tease the teeth apart and get the zipper to move. That didn't work either. She even resorted to calling my granny, and none of those remedies were effective either. And I feel like instead of saying those, I could just say her remedies, so it's like clear that they were my granny's ideas. The zipper was ruined. Gosh, I wonder if maybe I could do something there too. And notice I'm not sure I'm going to like add figurative language or more descriptive language, but these are ideas for places I might want to do that. I may not do them all. I'm going to show you guys 3. Maybe I could go back and do more later. By the time my dad got home, I was crying. I feel like we could be more descriptive here. He was the voice of reason. He suggested we could take the coat to the tailor, have him replace the zipper, and the coat would be good as new. Yes, a zipper repair would be expensive, but not nearly as expensive as a whole new coat. I felt intense relief. The problem would be solved. The next day, Dad dropped off the coat at the tailor. It would be ready in a week. I would be cold and miserable at recess until it was ready. My old hand-me-down coats no longer fit, and Mom had given them to another teacher at her school for her own daughter. That left me with nothing except the damaged one, but I'd get my beautiful coat back soon. On the day the coat was ready, I went with Dad to the tailor to pick it up. I couldn't wait to get my perfect new coat back. I feel like I could describe that a little more vividly. I noticed I used kind of a lot of really simple vocabulary my first time through. I definitely want to pick more specific words. The tailor went to the back and brought out the coat. He laid it on the counter. Oh, he laid on the counter. He laid it on the counter. See, reading out loud, catch a lot. That's when I saw the zipper. It was bright red with thick, bulky brass teeth. Okay, I know I could be descriptive here. This is definitely a place I want to look at. My dad, not being the sort of person who gave a lot of thought to fashion, was pleased. He thought it looked good and sturdy, like it would never break again. I wanted to cry, but knew better. I'd be in more trouble if I started bawling. Reluctantly, I put on my now ruined coat and we went home. I was sure that when Mom saw the coat in its present state, she would drive right back to the tailor and demand that a proper matching zipper be put in. I was wrong. Both my parents felt the ugly red zipper would teach me a valuable lesson about taking care of my belongings and about the consequences for what would happen if I didn't. I remembered how big the coat was and how long it would fit me. I feel like maybe something there too. Could do something with that. I realized how long I would have to wear this hideous coat with its hideous zipper. I knew there would be no point in arguing or having a fit. Their minds were made up. This was my fate. I would wear this coat. I don't need to say for well into the third grade. I could just say I would wear this coat well into the third grade, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was so upset that I went to bed without dinner. I cried myself to sleep. If I could be more descriptive there. I'm seeing so many places I could be more descriptive. And you may notice that in your own writing too. And you're probably not going to revise all of them because that might make your narrative confusing, adding that much figurative language. You're going to pick and choose the most important places to do that. And you'll get to see me do that. The next day, I wore my coat to school. The teasing started as soon as I got on the school bus. You couldn't miss that red zipper in my mauve coat. It might as well have been a flashing neon sign. It hurt my feelings when they said it was ugly, and it hurt my feelings when they said I was ugly for wearing it. But what hurt the most was when the children said my family must be poor if that was the best coat they could buy me. The teasing and bullying were brutal. They could see how much their taunts upset me. I think I should say, and it fueled them to continue their cruelty. Not so, it's and. I figured out I could hide the zipper if I folded my scarf just so. Oh, and somebody told me, my co-teacher actually was like, hey, you should do that as a hyphen because you're using it as an adjective. I was like, oh, yeah, that might be right. Then safety pinned it in place. That kept the other children from seeing the red zipper and remembering to make fun of me. However, there was a price for this safety. Now, I felt like that was not quite the right word the first time through, and I didn't quite know what word I would want. Maybe I just want a different word. I couldn't run around and play at recess with the other children. So I might say I could no longer run around. I think that sounds better. Run around and play at recess with the other children. And instead of saying the scarf, I think I'm going to say my scarf. My scarf might move out of place. The zipper would be exposed. The teasing and mocking would start again. Starting in the first grade, I sat on the wall by myself at recess and read books. I pretended it was because I liked to read and didn't want to run and play, but that was a lie. I wanted to swing and play kickball, but I wanted to preserve my dignity even more. Who'd have ever thought that something as simple and small as the zipper on a coat could so profoundly change how I felt about myself and how I was treated by my peers? Okay, not bad. So it took me a minute to get through the whole essay and pick some places. And I'm going to look through and look at all this green highlighting I did. What I'm going to do is, for now, just so I don't get bogged down in this, I'm going to pick 3 places to revise, to add some figurative language and more descriptive words. So I'm going to go through and just pick 3. Let's see, this part about my cousin's clothes. I mean, honestly, I think this is actually fine as I look at it again. I know there are places that I think are more in need of revision. This was, instead of saying very exciting, I could just change the word to thrilling, because that's like a better word. I never got clothing from a department store. Let's see. Because the bus stop was freezing. Actually, freezing was an okay word. It's pretty descriptive. I'm going to leave that one alone. And I usually had to wait outside for, I think I'm just going to exaggerate here and say, like, what felt like hours. It felt like hours because it was so cold, but it really wasn't. I mean, it was like 15 minutes. Okay, so I did revised there. I may actually do more than 3, guys. Okay, so Mom took me to the Jones store in September when, instead of saying it when it was still warm outside, I think I want to change this and just say when, like, the grass was still dry and hot and the cicadas were still humming into the night. Ooh, that's so descriptive. So it kind of gives you a sense of like what it felt like during that time of year. I think that's a lot better. Mom thought it was too flashy. It was mauve. And so instead of saying mauve, because nobody knows what that is, maybe I just get rid of all this and say it was the color of, the sky at twilight. Like purple with hints of pink at its edges. Just like I want to say like the clouds, how they look when the sun's going down, just like they look. Gosh, I'm having trouble with this one. Okay, just like the clouds when the sun has just dipped below the horizon. Oh, that's like so poetic. I am very pleased with myself. Okay. Okay, so here's a place I was so excited. Like, that's like not exactly great. I'm going to revise this one too. So instead of saying I was so excited, let's maybe make a simile or metaphor. I was, like a tiny bee humming with, anticipation. Yeah, that's better. I may revise that again later, but not bad. Okay, so this part, the zipper got stuck. I think I can say that better. Instead of just italicizing, I can do better than that. The zipper stuck. It wouldn't budge. Frantically, I kept pulling and pulling. Nothing. And then saying then I panicked. Let's just say I panicked. I guess I should say I panicked. Finally, through sheer force, it moved. I kept forcing the fob higher and higher until it stuck right in the middle of my chest. Yeah, I think that works. Even my teacher, Ms. Zimmer, couldn't make it budge. Yeah, I kind of like that. If I did so much figurative language in the sentence before, I probably need this one to not be too flowery. Okay, so saying my mom was furious, I think I should leave that alone, but I think I should add another sentence after to describe that fury, maybe a simile or a metaphor. Her face like twisted with rage as she, regarded, that's a great word, the damaged coat. And I want to say unstick. Oh, I guess I didn't need the hyphen. All right, cool. Let's see. The zipper was ruined. Oh, I just thought of a phrase I want to add, and this isn't even what I am revising for, but I think I'm going to add something here. The zipper was ruined, and along with it, the next 3 years of my life. I think I'm going to do a little foreshadowing here. So I was sobbing. Mom was crying and still yelling. I mean, I think that's okay. Better than I had before. I might look at it again later. Okay, this was the one thing I really wanted to revise when you actually like describe the zipper. Okay, so I think I want to be a lot more descriptive here. The binding was a bright fire engine red, and the heavy brass teeth of the new zipper looked better suited to to a duffel bag than a little girl's coat. Yeah, and that's actually, I think, maybe what the zipper was supposed to be for. I think later I figured out they probably did not have one long enough that came in a proper color. So they put this in instead. And there may have been just some disagreement about why it would be problematic. Okay, so let's see if there's any place else I want to hit now. I was only going to show you 3, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to revise more. I'm going to add something. I cried myself to sleep holding down my hiccups and howls, so no one would hear me. Yeah, so I decided to leave that alone, but add a little bit more. Now, I could probably keep going, and I know I want to change this word at some point, but I think for now, I may have done enough revising. So, I did what may happen to some of you guys. I thought, you know what? I'm going to revise 3 things. But once I got going, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can fix more than 3. So that's my advice to you. Do this strategy, pick 3 places. Make yourself do 3. But if you're doing well and you're on a roll and it's going well, revise more than 3. All right, come back and you can see the next revision strategy in the next video.